Available at audible.com. Encyclopocalypse presents Wetbones by John Shirley. Narrated by Edison McDaniels. Garner had almost lost the Porsche at the traffic light on 15th. He'd had to run the light, risk the police and a wreck, and risk that whoever was in the Porsche would notice him. A Porsche? Not something most teenage kids drove. Something a drug dealer might drive. Now he sat outside the motel in his '83 Toyota, trying to make up his mind about what to do. The man and Constance had gone into the motel, and any doubts about what was up were banished. His daughter knew about birth control. Maybe he shouldn't stop her from experimenting with sex. Maybe. But the guy was obviously fucking her judgment before Constance herself, with a drug of some kind. No way was Garner going to let that happen. The Porsche was alone on the dark side of the motel parking lot, parked in front of the only room showing a light. That had to be the place. Constance must be in that room with the son of a bitch. Garner considered calling the cops. She was underage, after all. But did he really want the police in on this? Constance could end up in custody. If he charged in without the cops, though, he could end up dead, and maybe Constance would too. If the guy was a dealer, he was probably armed. Garner wished he'd seen the driver of the Porsche more clearly. He hadn't pulled up in time to see them walk into the motel room together. Garner felt a pang at having betrayed his daughter's trust. He turned into one of the over 30 monsters Abby had warned him about. But on some other level, following her was the right thing to do. This was the only way to get the truth, and seeing Lucia today had made Garner determined on the truth. Not my daughter. I won't have her trapped like that, even if I have to be an asshole about it and follow her, just to be sure. He'd almost had himself convinced it hadn't been drugs. You who talk about the mote in your friend's eye, take the beam out of your own, pal. He'd been hiding snugly in his own denial. And then he'd awakened, heard that back door open, and knew instantly. He made up his mind about what to do. He got out of the car and got the tire iron from the trunk. He walked around to the motel room and tried the knob. Locked. He rattled it, knocked on the door. Footsteps. Then the door came unlocked in his hand, someone letting him in. He took a deep breath and opened it. He stepped inside. He stepped into glue, a world of glue. He couldn't move. He couldn't see. Someone took the tire iron from his hand. He heard the door close behind him. Then his senses closed down completely. He could hear nothing, feel nothing. Someone had hit him, was his last thought, as he slipped into a world where everything was gray and endlessly inert. Available at audible.com.